Hello everyone, I am Pooka and welcome to the finals of the 2013 Illinois State Championship. We had over 130 Masters and we are down to 2. 2 is a pretty fitting number for our first competitor, Ross Cawthon, a two-time Worlds finalist. What haven't we said about him? He is a great player. He's in the finals with a Garbodor Landorus Mewtwo deck, and he's going up against a relatively new player from the area, Andrew Callahan. I've actually never seen him play before. I've honestly never even seen him before today. But he started playing about a year ago. He's here, he's from this area, and it's kind of a Cinderella story going up against, kind of the Goliath of the tournament, Ross Cawthon. So we'll see who comes out on top here. Will it be David or Goliath? I don't know. He's playing a Rayquaza electric deck as well, so that's even more of the David side of the story. Going up against a Landorus Garbodor deck. Shutting off the ability has the weakness advantage as well. But anything can happen in Pokemon. So let's cut to the match. So we will have Andrew on the left, Ross on the right. And I really don't know what to expect. I don't know anything about Andrew's list. I saw him play a game against Hondo Luna before. It was a mirror match. And he was running some interesting cards. He runs Raikou EX, a card that honestly seems to be a little outdated at this point. It's weak to fighting, it's weak to Terrakion, it's weak to Landorus. The 100 snipe isn't as effective anymore, but he's still playing it. Maybe that'll come up in this matchup, I don't know. I don't know if he plays Tool Scrapper. That is the biggest thing in this matchup. Does the Rayquaza Electric player play Tool Scrapper? And if he does, how many? Because if he doesn't, honestly, this is going to be a pretty lopsided match. If you don't get to use Dynamotor against the Landorus deck, you're usually in some trouble. And we might see that here. I don't know. If he runs like 2 Tool Scrappers, this can be a pretty competitive matchup, honestly. If you can get those turns of Dynamotor, it is huge. I don't know what's going to happen here, guys. But let's get pumped up. It's the finals here. This is the last match of the weekend in this great tournament run by Jimmy Ballard. This has been a great event. Everything has run very smoothly. And I am looking forward to this 75-minute best 2 out of 3 match to see who comes out on top, who takes home the gold, the $300 travel award, 2 of the national championships in Indianapolis in July, and also 100 championship points, and like a box of cards, something like that. So lots of good stuff on the line here. But of course, the biggest thing is the title of state champion. So here we go. We're drawn. We're getting all set up. We'll see who has a basic Pokemon. Looks like both players do have a basic. They'll put that out there. And we're getting ready to go. Gotta see who goes first. And we have a Sucevich versus a Rayquaza. Looks like they already flipped to see who goes first. Andrew is going first. I don't think he plays any Ether, so Ross should be safe on this first turn, but we do see an Ultra Ball from Andrew. He starts with that Rayquaza EX versus a Sucevich. And we are getting underway here. So let's see what he does. He Ultra Balls away an Ultra Ball and a Chorus. Most players would decide to Ultra Ball away the Lightning so that you can ensure. Actually, we're going to get a look at his deck here. See if he plays Tool Scrapper. That could be huge. I don't think he plays Tool Scrapper. I don't see it anywhere in that deck. I see Scramble Switch, though. That could be weird. It looks like he's going to Ultra Ball and go for Emolga. And he's got the Sky Arrow in hand already. Normally you would Ultra Ball away the Lightning to get energy in the discard pile for Electric's Dynamotor. But I don't know. We'll see what he decides to go for. It looks like Emolga is coming out. That's a good card against Landorus decks. It resists fighting. Lets you get multiple Tynamos into play immediately with that Call for Family attack. It's a very, very good setup Pokemon. In an era where the game is so fast-paced, you cannot afford to not get your basics out as quickly as turn 1, turn 2. Otherwise, you're just going to get run over. But we are seeing the Emolga. I'm pretty sure he's going to play that down. And the Sky Arrow. And then just retreat to Emolga. We'll see if he attaches or plays Juniper first. He's going to attach. Not getting the energy in the discard pile, just favoring the attachment there. And he's going to draw a nice 7 cards here. Put down a couple Tynamos, it looks like. Then he'll be able to retreat freely to the Emolga, thanks to the Sky Arrow Bridge. And, alright. Puts down a Raikou as well. That is a risky card to put down, not knowing anything about your opponent's deck, to be completely honest. He's going to retreat to Emolga, and, I mean, your bench is full. Maybe you Static Shock here. Either that or you just search for a third Tynamo. I'm not sure. So we'll see what Emolga does here and what Andrew does. This is a weird start here for him, and he's actually going to call for family. The 20 damage could make a difference. You know, if he does 20 and then has an X-Ball with Mewtwo for, you know, 2 energy, it would do 80 due to the Psychic weakness. He could set up a knockout later, but he could always just Static Shock next turn, I suppose. He's going to go for the third Tynamo. Now the bad part for Andrew. His hand, not too great. He didn't get any lightning in the discard pile, so even though he's got a ton of Tynamos, where is his threat? It's just not there. You know, you need those lightning energy in the discard pile to fuel the Dynamotor ability, power up that Rayquaza EX, use Dragon Burst, but unless you can get lightning energy in the discard pile, you're going to be really slow. And you can't afford to be slow against Garbodor, because once Garbodor comes out, it has that Garbotoxin ability, shuts off Dynamotor, and all of your energy acceleration is gone. And that is devastating for the Ray Eel deck, because Rayquaza EX, it has to discard energy to attack. And the deck has perfect synergy. You Dragon Burst for a ton of damage, you discard all your lightning, Electric gets them back, you attack again. But when your abilities are shut off and you can't get the lightning back, all of a sudden Rayquaza is kind of a mediocre card. You know, you have to manually attach once per turn. You're not really getting yourself anywhere, and that is probably what's going to happen here if Andrew cannot put on any pressure in these early parts of the game. Also, he did put out the Sky Arrow Bridge. That was necessary for him to be able to use Call for Family. But it's actually going to give that Trubbish free retreat, so Ross will not have to waste a switch or an energy in order to just kind of go into maybe a Landorus this turn. He can just retreat freely because of the Sky Arrow. Trubbish only has 1 retreat. It is reduced down to 0, so for sure he'll be able to retreat to a different Pokemon this turn and not have to have that Trubbish active. You gotta wonder, if you're Andrew, would you have been better off just kind of powering up Rayquaza turn 1, attaching a lightning to it, threatening a turn 2 Dragon Burst for 60 to knock out Trubbish, and if you knock out the only Trubbish in play, maybe you could prevent Ross from ever getting Garbodor out, and if that's the case, then you could win. But his current situation, it doesn't look like he's really getting anywhere. But then again, you can't really expect your hand to be what he got off of that Juniper. So it could go either way. Luck's just not on his side right now. So Ross is playing a heavy ball. He's searching his deck. He can grab a Pokemon with a 3 retreat cost or more here, which will be Landorus EX pretty much. Can't envision him grabbing anything besides that. He's doing some math here. I'm not really sure what math you could come up with this early in the game. It's all pretty straightforward turn 1. Grabs his Landorus EX. Maybe he's determining how many cards he can discard. He's going to get rid of that Verbank. It's an interesting card to get rid of. He might have another one in his hand, and he might have to Juniper. So he's going to discard an Eviolite as well. That could be a big card in the matchup. But I'm anticipating Ross to have a Juniper this turn, and that's why he's kind of discarding these cards. We see another Trubbish come down. That is very important. See if he has an energy or not. Puts a Giant Cape on the active Trubbish, a Rescue Scarf on the other one, and then plays an N. And here we go. So both players will shuffle in and draw 6. That's actually a big sigh of relief for Andrew, who might be able to pull something off now that he's getting a fresh hand of 6. That's for sure. Let's see. So both players shuffle in and draw the same number of cards as they have prizes. Both players have 6 prizes at this point, so they will both draw 6 cards. Ross, he's going to be digging for a fighting energy and probably a Pokemon catcher so that he can pick off one of Andrew's Tynamos and, you know, get the lead here in the early parts of the game, take some prizes. Worst case scenario, I guess he just wouldn't attach this turn. Even just a fighting is okay. You can do 10 to the Emolga and then 30 to a Tynamo, perhaps. And okay. Let's see where Ross goes from here. Now, we've seen Ross play several times. We all know he is a very deliberate player. He takes his time, analyzes all of his options. And it's a little frustrating for some players. But, you know, you can't knock the guy. He knows what he's doing. And he's actually got to attach a double colorless to Trubbish. And he's going to have to use Garbage Collection. He might not have a supporter. And he's just going to put the N back on top of his deck with Garbage Collection. And Andrew's got to read that. It's a very nifty attack. It gives a little bit of a boost in consistency to this Garbodor deck. Pretty nice thing to have on your side. But you can see that Ross just does not have anything if he's going for a Garbage Collection. All right, so we got a Fire coming down on the Rayquaza EX. And I see a Chorus in Andrew's hand. He'll at least be able to draw 7 here, and there's an Electric. He's also got a Juniper, so he can get a Dragon Burst this turn. A level ball for a second Electric. This is a very explosive start. This is not the hand we saw before. You know, if Ross didn't have to end him, he probably would have floundered through this game and really wouldn't have gotten anywhere. But now that Ross ended him, we're seeing a handful of Lightnings, 2 Electrics. And if he Junipers, he can get 2 Lightning Energy in the discard pile. Double Dynamotor, knock out a Trubbish this turn. And he'll be well on his way to maybe overpowering Ross before Ross can get set up. That Giant Cape on the Trubbish is actually being quite annoying. It's going to force Rayquaza EX to discard 2 energy for Dragon Burst. That's pretty bad, considering you'll have to discard both Lightning this turn. He's already attached a Fire. There is the Juniper. And I just want to say it's kind of ironic that Ross is going up against a Rayquaza Electric deck, because if you watch our coverage at the Fort Wayne Indiana Regional Championships, Ross actually won that tournament with a very similar Rayquaza Electric deck, and now he's going up against it in the finals here of this tournament. So it's kind of like someone else is playing his deck. And now we have a 3rd Electric coming with another level ball. Wow. So that is a big play here. We also saw a Scramble Switch in Andrew's hand. That might end up being big later on in the game to perhaps get an energy from that Emolga on it to Rayquaza. That could be huge in the later stages of this game. We'll have to see. So he's going to get 2 Dynamotors off. There's only 2 Lightning in the discard pile. He's actually got another Electric in his hand. So he's going to have to Dynamotor twice and then go ahead and Dragon Burst this Trubbish for the knockout. And he'll take the first prize, draw first blood here. And Ross will be on the back foot. He's actually playing Scramble Switch. He's going to put a 3rd energy onto his Rayquaza EX. Does he have a catcher? Yes! He's going to catcher up the Landorus EX and take that knockout. Take the first 2 prizes of the game. Andrew is being very aggressive. He's saying, you know what, I'm just going to take out that Landorus. I'm going to force you to have another attacker next turn. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be slowed down. Now, this may be a little bit too aggressive. You might have wanted to save that Scramble Switch for a better time, you know. Just knock out the first Trubbish, and then you can pull off a surprise catcher, and then Scramble Switch, knock out the next Garbodor when it evolves, and maybe catch Ross without Garbodor the rest of the game, and you have 3 Electrics on, and you're going to win that way. This way is, I mean, you take more prizes, you take out the Landorus, but it seems a little riskier, and bam, there is the Garbodor. Things are going to slow down to a halt now, and Ross catches up that Electric, and there is an N. Another thing is, yep, Ross, we knew he was going to have an N because of that Garbage Collection. So There's two ways to look at it. The first one is, well, I might as well just play my cards now. I know they're going to get shuffled in. We'll take out the Landorus while I can. The other way of looking at it is, I'm going to get an end. So maybe I only want to take one prize instead of two, so I draw an extra card. You can go either way on that. But either way now, Andrew will draw 4 cards, Ross will draw 6. And even though Ross is down 2 prizes, and there are 3 electrics on board for Andrew, you got to think Ross is in the lead as long as Andrew does not have Tool Scrapper in his deck, because he had that one explosive turn, but he had to discard the energy on Rayquaza, and now, I mean, he really slows down a little. He doesn't have any energy acceleration. You have to discard all of the energy from Rayquaza, and you're forced to start over. Now, if Ross doesn't get an attacker out anytime soon, and Andrew is just allowed to power up his Rayquaza turn by turn, one lightning at a time, then he might be okay still. But that's a lot to ask. And Ross, you know, by his body language, does look like he has very much. So there still might be an opening for Andrew to take advantage of Ross's lack of aggression here. He may have to garbage collection again, and that would be pretty bad. Another thing is Andrew has played 2 catchers at this point. I'm not sure how many he plays. You can go either 3 or 4 in a Ray Eel deck. So he might not be able to catcher up Garbodor anymore. And we do see Ross garbage collection for a Landorus. So that's going to go on top of his deck. Andrew does top deck a switch. So he can switch into the Rayquaza EX. And you got to wonder, is this an opportunity? Is this a situation where you use Celestial Roar? As weird as that sounds, you know, Celestial Roar is a very risky attack. You only play maybe like 13, 14 energy in a Rayquaza electric deck, maybe as low as 12 sometimes. So you don't have great odds of getting a Celestial Roar to yield you much energy, but if you don't have any energy acceleration, do you just kind of go for it, knowing that, okay, well, I can't get anywhere. What am I supposed to do? So he draws his 7 cards from the Juniper, gets an energy search. The problem is, even if he does 60, he cannot knock out the Trubbish with Dragon Burst. It's just not going to work. He's got a giant cape, so it has 80 hit points instead of the normal 60. There's a healthy amount of energy in there. I mean, I don't know. He could still retreat for free thanks to the Sky Arrow. I don't know if he just wants to retreat the Rayquaza, leave Emolga active and pass. You could Celestial Roar, try to get more energy onto your Rayquaza. You could Dragon Burst for 60. That seems like the worst move. No, he's going to attach to Raikou instead. Is he going to go for the Roar? And yes, Roar time. Catcher, Super Rod, Juniper. Oh. I think I'm going to throw up, guys. Those were like the 3 worst cards he could have discarded with Celestial Roar. Oh, no. Discards the Super Rod, which would have given him more energy. The Catcher, which allows him to go after Garbodor. And the Juniper, just your best draw card in the deck. Ouch. What else can you say? Oh, no. And now if you're Ross, you got to be feeling pretty good, seeing that your opponent just Celestial Roared and discarded 3 cards for you. That is brutal. That is almost demoralizing if you're Andrew. We do see Landorus EX coming down now for Ross. And what will he do from here? If he has a catcher, he'll probably go for an electric. Seems like the safest way to go. Hammerhead for 30, and 30 is not the most effective thing in the world right now. I mean, sure, it softens up Rayquaza and does 30 somewhere else, but it doesn't really do a whole lot for you. So you really want a catcher here if you could. So Ross is going to take his time and analyze the situation, seeing what he wants to do. I mean, even if he hammerheads and goes for electrics, is that actually the best thing to do? Your opponent's abilities are shut off. Sure, you take prizes on it, but it's not like they're doing anything. They're just kind of dead weight out there anyway. And I don't know. Maybe it's better to just sit back and garbage collection since your opponent clearly is not doing anything. And clearly is using Celestial Roar. But he is going to catch her out an electric. Now, he could hammerhead, or he can just sit back again and garbage collection, like I said. Both would be a good option here. Andrew's going to take a look, see how many catchers are gone. I believe that's the second one for Ross. And there's a Juniper. This card is a Switch, Rescue Scarf, and a Bianca. So Ross would draw 7. And I don't know what he's going to do next. His potential options, I mean, if he has a laser and a Verbank, he can straight up just knock out electric this turn. That is a very strong move. And then hit something else for 30. If he has a laser, I think you would just hold on to it. 10 damage here doesn't really do much for you in terms of setting up knockouts. But where do you put the 30 from Hammerhead if you do attack with that? That is the question. Do you put it on another electric, set up for another prize? Or do you put it on Rayquaza or maybe Raikou? Set those up for big 2-prize knockouts later? It's an interesting decision. I don't know if there is a right or wrong answer there. So he will promote the Landorus EX. Big dog, he's going to hammerhead for 60. Thanks to that fighting weakness, it's 30 times 2 and then 30 to a bench Pokemon. All for the cost of 1 energy. This is one of the most efficient attackers in the game for sure. Hammerhead is a ridiculously broken attack. I mean, there's a time where this card would have been banned, but nowadays, it's pretty good, I guess. But yeah, Electric gets his for 60, Rayquaza for 30. Also, we got Land's Judgment on Landorus, so he's going to set up that Rayquaza for later, and then he can Land's Judgment for 150 to finish it off. Okay, so we'll see what Andrew has here. He's got a Skyla. I mean, that'll tell us whether or not he plays Tool Scrapper, huh? I mean, I didn't see it in his first search through his deck. Maybe he plays one and it's prized. I don't know. He puts a second fire on Rayquaza. So he's kind of gearing up for a big Dragon Burst one turn. And here we go, Skyla. What do we got? Don't see a Tool Scrapper. I see a switch. He could just switch and go for another Celestial Roar. That is an option. That might be his best option, honestly. He's going to take a look and see what he's gotten rid of. And here you can see kind of that Scramble Switch Gambit at the beginning kind of didn't pay off. I mean, if he could have... Imagine if he knocked out that Trubbish the one turn, catch with the Garbodor the next turn, use the Scramble Switch to get the extra energy to knock it out. He could have been just fine, you know, with 3 electrics in play, free to use abilities. We don't know if Ross would have been able to get another Garbodor with a tool out. He could have been free the rest of the game from that Garbotoxin, but instead he went for the Landorus. He took the 2 prizes at the beginning. We'll never know if that was the right or wrong move, but you gotta wonder, what if? So he's got the switch, but he just holds on to it and passes. I actually don't mind that play at all. If you're not going to Celestial Roar, then there's no point in switching. You want the electric that already has 60, clearly is going to get targeted down with the 30 from Hammerhead. So might as well have that take the brunt of the attack and then only have something else take 30. And then not waste the switch as well, since the electric's probably going to get knocked out. Ross has already played 2 catchers, so he probably doesn't have another one here. He could, but it's unlikely. And then if he does have another catcher, you just have a switch. So I like that move, holding on to the switch there. So what does Ross have here? He still has not taken a prize, but it's going to be a slow grind for a comeback here. You can definitely see things have slowed down, and Ross is now the one in control of the game. Even though Andrew is ahead on prizes, that does not mean anything in Pokemon. Board position is crucial, and this is a perfect example of that. Even though he's only doing 30 at a time, he has completely shut down Andrew's strategy at this point. And it's kind of a beautiful thing to see. In this day and age, we hear a lot of people complain about the game is very straightforward. You know, it's just big, basic Pokemon attacking. But here, I mean, you can just see everything has slowed down. Ross has kind of found a way to control in this wacky format. And we'll see what he does. He does have a catcher. We'll see if he wants to use it, though. At the very least, you would expect him to take a prize this turn, that is for sure. And we'll see. He's just going to hammerhead and do 30 to that Rayquaza. He holds on to the catcher in his hand. I like that move a lot. He wants to hold on to the catcher for next turn, so he can catcher out the Rayquaza and lands Judgment and knock it out. That is the idea there. So we'll see where Andrew goes from here. He puts down the regular Rayquaza. Looks like the Dragon Vault promo. Not sure if that's going to do a whole lot here. He can do 40 for 1 with Dragon Pulse. It's going to discard 2 cards every time, though. Pretty annoying. At this point, you know, after that abysmal Celestial Roar in the middle of the game, discarding every card is going to be very precious. And you don't want to discard more cards than you have to, unless you're roaring, of course, and you get some energy off of that. So this is a tough decision for Andrew. There's not a whole lot he can do. Another thing is we haven't even seen Ross play a laser yet, so he'll have all 4 of those left. So he'll have some added damage potential for sure. Later on in the game, he could use like laser and Verbank, and then lands Judgment for 80 plus 30. That could knock out Rayquaza, and he wouldn't even have to discard his energy. That would be a monumental play. And pretty much wrap up the game, I would think, for Ross. Assuming that, you know, Rayquaza or Electric gets shut off the entire game. And he's actually going to send up this Rayquaza and Dragon Pulse for 40. Discard his top 2, Ultra Ball and a Lightning. He's just going to try to get some kind of damage on that Landorus. I mean, why not? At this point, he really doesn't have any better option. So if he can Dragon Pulse twice, I guess he could set up his Rayquaza to Dragon Burst for 120, finish off the Landorus. That is an option. And you kind of assume that your Rayquaza is going to go down, so why not put your energy somewhere else? I don't mind that play. Just the discarding 2 cards is very painful at this point, like I said. We do see a 3rd fighting on that Landorus, so we're going to see Land's Judgment come into play, I think. But what is Ross going to do? Does he have, you know, the laser and the Verbank? We know he has the catcher in his hand. Is he going to play that this turn on the Rayquaza, or is he just going to be content to, you know, hammerhead for 30 this turn? Hit the Rayquaza again, and then next turn just catcher it and do 80 to finish with Land's Judgment. Or he can just go all out this turn, catcher the Rayquaza, burn all of his energy, take those 2 prizes. He's actually going to go for Raikou. this is another option. And this is why benching Raikou early on was a big risk. We have a laser, and then Land's Judgment will do 80 times 2, which will do 160, plus 10 for the laser, and that will be a knockout for 2 prizes, and he doesn't have to discard his energy. So, big play there from Ross. It is the risk of Raikou nowadays. And there we go, Land's Judgment for the knockout. Down to 3 prizes for Ross. So he'll have to knock out probably that Rayquaza, and then one more thing to finish this game. He has used 3 catchers up to this point, I believe. So unless he has the 4th one in his hand already, it's going to be tough to really... I mean, if Andrew doesn't force his Rayquaza to come up, if he doesn't attack with it, then it's going to be tough for Ross to take those last couple prizes, perhaps. We see another Rayquaza EX come down. And an N. Okay, so he's going to shuffle in and draw 4. Ross will shuffle in and draw 3. Interesting that he didn't attach his energy beforehand there. He had a fire in his hand. I maybe would have attached to maybe the new Rayquaza. Possibly even your Shred Rayquaza. That wouldn't have been a bad option either, I don't think. Just to kind of spread out your energy a little bit. But at this point, Andrew seems to be fighting a very uphill battle, that's for sure. And it's all because, you know, when Laser came out, people, you know, they went through pretty much 2 thought processes. Number 1, I need to play Laser, so I don't have room for Tool Scrapper. Number 2, nobody's going to play Garbodor, so I don't have to play Tool Scrapper. So what happened was nobody played Tool Scrapper. And when you don't play Tool Scrapper, you kind of lose to Garbodor. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. We have another Dragon Pulse for 40. Discards an N and a Fire. Ross is going to take a look and see how many cards left that Andrew actually has left in his deck. And what I'm going to wonder is how many energy does Andrew have left? He might not have enough left to win the game, unfortunately. He could knock out this Landorus, and then, I mean, he'll take 2 more prizes. Maybe he plays Tool Scrapper. Maybe it's prized. I don't know. He'll get down to 2 prizes, though. But does he have enough energy to even finish the game at this point? I don't know. So we'll see what Ross does here. If he has a catcher, you got to think he would go for that benched Rayquaza EX. Just Land's Judgment, knock it out, get it out of there. We have a Skyla, so yep, he does have 1 catcher left. It's on the bottom of his deck. He'll probably take it this turn, I would think. And if he knocks out that Rayquaza, you got to think this game is pretty much over. I mean, how does Andrew recover from that? Losing 3 energy, not taking those 2 prizes. And I don't know. It just doesn't look pretty, that is for sure. So Ross is going to play a Skyla. He gets to search for any trainer, so this might take a while. We'll see what he decides to take. And I feel like I should have some music playing during these downtimes in his turn. I don't have anything to fill the time anymore. I've used up my shtick the whole day. We're just going to have to wait, I guess, and sit in silence. All right, so he does grab the catcher. There we go. So Ross's discard pile is kind of sprawled all over the table. I couldn't see. There's at least 2 catchers in there. I don't know if that's his 4th one he's playing or his 3rd one, but either way, this is going to be the game winner, I think. It won't per se win the game outright, but this is a pretty brutal thing here. But actually, I don't know. It depends. How many fire? And, oh, there's a Mewtwo. I don't know. You might deck out, too. There's an N, though. Mewtwo could be the key. You know, it's the only thing in his deck that doesn't really discard energy. But if he can get, you know, there is a way for him to win still. Well, weirdly enough, he can attach this turn to the Rayquaza, Dragon Pulse for 20. That'll put the Landorus up to 100 damage. And, oh boy. Thank you, Adam Vernola. Matt Moss isn't even here this time. I can get that off the table. Thanks, Ross. Alright, so if he can attach this turn, and then Dragon Pulse for 20, and the next turn attach a Fire, he could Shred for the finishing 90, knock out the Landorus, and he's only got a 2-hit the next Landorus he can win, but no energy. Ugh. But, you know, Ross did get End down to 1 card here. So maybe he just want to have the cards left to win. Andrew is going to retreat to his Rayquaza EX and pass. What did Ross get off his N to 1? He has no energy in play. Like, the only energy he has is on Trubbish. So I guess technically he could draw a Switch and then Garbage Collection. But otherwise he needs to draw energy or a supporter sometime soon, or he's going to be sitting there for a while not really doing anything. And Ross, you can see he has a ton of cards left in his deck. He was not able to thin cards out of his deck very much this game. There's at least a good 20 cards left in his deck. So there's a lot of dead cards left he could draw. There's a whole Trubbish Garbodor line he could draw off of this end. There's just all sorts of junk he could get, the extra basics, the Mewtwo's, the Tornadus. He could just be drawing nothing continually. And if Andrew can just attach twice to that Shred Rayquaza and then shred his way to victory, that is a possibility. It's very unlikely, but I've seen stranger things happen in Pokemon, I'll tell you that much. So Ross, he has 2 cards. What options can you possibly have with 2 cards? I mean, if you have an energy, I think you would just attach and start using Hammerhead. Because why not? Your opponent is pretty much out of energy at this point. There's probably 2 energy left, so you should probably just start using Hammerhead if you have a fighting. And he puts a DC on the Landorus. Okay, so that's another way to retreat thanks to that Sky Arrow Bridge. It has a 2 retreat cost, and now he can use Garbage Collection, and that's probably going to be the end of this. He can just Garbage Collection for a Juniper, honestly. Put that on top of his deck, he'll draw 7 next turn. And Trubbish. Trubbish has got to be the MVP of this game, that's for sure. Actually, Sky Arrow Bridge is also the MVP, I gotta say that. Now Andrew, he does not draw an energy again. You gotta think, he's only got 3 cards left. He's got to scoop at this point. There's just nothing left for him to do anymore. So you just concede, move on to the next game. It's 75 minutes, but, you know, save your time, why not? Don't take any chances. You have lost this game at this point. You're gonna deck out before you can even do anything. You're probably out of energy anyway. He is going to play a Skyla. It's an Ultra Ball, a Lightning, and a Victini. He cannot win this game anymore. There's no way. So he should probably just scoop up his cards and move on to the next game. Decides not to take anything. I don't know, this is a tough spot for Andrew. He's got to pretty much realize that he's lost at this point. He just passes the turn. I guess he's going to make Ross beat him. And, well, Ross gladly will do that. There's not much standing in his way anymore. If you run out of energy, you just can't attack anymore. When Garbodor's out there, you can't use abilities, you can't use Dynamotor, you can't get your energy back. So we saw Andrew's deck, we saw he doesn't have anything left. This is just not going to be pretty. It's just pretty much game over at this point. He has exhausted all of his options. And Ross, you know, he started down 2 prizes, but he made the slow comeback, and he's going to take a 1-game lead here. There's no way around it. Now Ross, you know, he's going to take his time because why wouldn't you? This game is for sure in the bag. No reason to, you know, speed it up. You definitely want time on your side. You know, he's won this first game for sure. You know, if this series ever goes to a sudden death scenario, Ross is at an extreme advantage with Landorus versus Tynamo. So if time somehow does get called in this 75-minute match, you got to think that Ross would be the favorite. So there's no reason why you wouldn't just kind of draw this game out as long as possible. Time limits are a factor in tournament games. It's a harsh reality, but it is what it is. And, you know, a great player will take advantage of that. So I don't see a reason why Ross wouldn't just kind of sit back and take as long as possible this game. But, all right, Andrew is going to concede this first game. There we go. There's another lightning prize. I don't believe he plays Tool Scrapper. At least that's what we saw. So this might be, I don't know, it could be an ugly series, but who knows? Anything can happen. You could just overpower Ross before anything gets going. But Ross definitely had the advantage, and he is 1 game away from becoming the state champion here at the Illinois State Championships and adding on to his already impressive resume and pretty much locking up an invite to Worlds, I think. He's got a lot of championship points already. And it looks like they're just calling it 1 game. I'm not sure. That was only 1 game. Are they calling it quits? What's going on here, folks? I think they packed up. I think they're only playing 1 game. I don't know what to say. I don't know. What is going on here? He may have conceded. He might just need to go home. I don't know. But Ross has been crowned the champion at this point. Congratulations, Ross. Well, I'm just as confused as you guys, but I guess Ross won, and that's all there is to it. I guess I'll find out later what happened, but congratulations to Ross for winning the state championship. Clearly he's been awarded the championship here. I don't know what else to say. But, yeah, he is our state champion here. And Ross showing us his die. The truth is out there. That is for sure. He takes down another tournament. Again, I'm not sure what happened there, but clearly he won. And you got to think he would have won regardless. Kind of an uneventful ending, but that's what it is. So, all right. I don't know what to say. Congratulations to Ross. He is the winner here. Andrew put up a fight in that first game, and apparently that's all they're going to play here. I thought it was going to be a 2 out of 3, but maybe they came to an agreement. Maybe Andrew just decided to go home. I'm not sure what the problem was, but at any rate, Ross Cawthon is your Illinois State champion. So thank you guys for watching. That's going to wrap up our coverage. I think they're packing up, and they want us to get out of here. So that's all we got. Until next time, I'll see you next week, guys, from Wisconsin. Take care. See you later.